You're hiking through a quiet forest, boots crunching on dry leaves, wind moving through the trees. And then you stop, because something is looking at you. A deer, frozen 30 feet away, staring directly into your eyes. Not running, not eating, just watching, waiting. And here's the question that should keep you up at night. Did it feel you before it saw you? Because across the animal kingdom, from crows to crocodiles to your family dog, there's growing evidence that animals don't just react to being watched. Some of them may actually sense it. Today we're going to find out how, and why, and what it tells us about the hidden intelligence woven into every living creature on this planet. Let's start with the most obvious case: prey animals. For a zebra, a rabbit, a deer, being watched is not a philosophical question. It's a life or death situation. A predator's gaze almost always comes right before an attack. So if you're a prey animal, detecting a stare is one of the most important skills you can have. And evolution delivered. Many prey animals have eyes positioned on the sides of their skulls, giving them close to 360 degrees of vision. They can see behind themselves without turning their head. They are, quite literally, built to spot watchers. But it goes beyond anatomy. Researchers have tested what happens when a human approaches prey animals while making direct eye contact versus looking away. Same person, same distance, same speed. The only variable is gaze direction. The results are striking. Deer, rabbits, and similar animals flee significantly sooner, and from greater distances, when the approaching human looks directly at them. When the person looks to the side, the animals stay calmer, for longer. They're not reacting to you. They're reacting to your eyes. The gaze itself is the threat signal. And they read it the way we read a stop sign. Instantly. Automatically. Without thinking. Now here's where it gets more interesting. Because it's not just prey animals running on survival instinct. Some of the most cognitively sophisticated animals on the planet show an even more refined version of this ability. Take crows. Researchers at Cambridge University ran a now famous experiment with wild crows in an urban environment. They approached food that had been left on the ground. In one condition, the researcher stared directly at the crow while walking toward the food. In the other, the researcher looked away. When stared at, the crows waited nearly twice as long before returning to the food. But here's the part that's really remarkable. When the researcher turned their back, the crows repositioned themselves so they could still watch the researcher's face. They tracked where the eyes were pointing. They understood that a turned back didn't mean inattention if the face could still rotate toward them. They weren't just detecting a stare. They were modeling attention itself. Thinking about what the researcher could and couldn't see. That's not instinct. That's cognition. Primates show similar behavior. Gorillas and chimpanzees react very differently to direct eye contact versus averted gaze. And in great ape social dynamics, a sustained stare is a direct dominance challenge. They don't just notice being watched. They interpret it socially. Even dogs, after thousands of years of living alongside humans, have developed an almost supernatural sensitivity to human gaze. Dogs follow our eye movements to find hidden objects. They look to our eyes for information before making decisions. And they absolutely know, when you're not paying attention to them versus when you are. So what's actually going on inside the animal brain when it detects a stare? Neuroscientists have identified neurons in the brains of many species that are specifically tuned to detect faces. And within that, certain cells fire specifically in response to forward-facing eyes. Not a profile. Not a silhouette. Eyes. Looking forward. Directly. This makes evolutionary sense. Forward-facing eyes mean a predator. Herbivores have side-mounted eyes. Hunters have front-mounted eyes. Wolves, owls, humans. Two eyes pointing at you from the front of a skull is one of the oldest danger signals in vertebrate evolution. So deep in the brain, across hundreds of millions of years, a circuit developed that says, "Two eyes looking at me means I might be prey right now." This circuit is so primal that it fires even when the trigger is abstract. Researchers showed monkeys images of eyes, cartoon eyes, not real ones, and measured a significant spike in cortisol, the stress hormone. Not a face, not an animal. Just the shape of two eyes pointing forward was enough to trigger the alarm. Nature even weaponized this. Certain butterflies and moths evolve large eye spot patterns on their wings, not to see with, but to be seen as. When a predator approaches and those wings snap open, two giant eyes suddenly appear. The predator flinches, the butterfly escapes. A fake gaze doing real biological work. Now we get into territory that is genuinely mysterious and a little harder to explain. Wildlife photographers and field researchers frequently report something strange. An animal will be completely relaxed, moving naturally, feeding, unaware of the human presence. The photographer is hidden, motionless, silent. No sound, no movement. And then, the moment the photographer raises the camera and focuses on the animal, it stops, looks up, looks directly at the camera, not at a sound, not at a movement, at the attention itself. Now, scientists are rightly cautious about these reports. Confirmation bias is real. We remember the times it happened and forget the times it didn't. But the reports are persistent, cross-cultural, and come from experienced, trained observers who have ruled out the obvious explanations. So what could explain it? One strong candidate is microsignals we emit when we focus intensely on something. When you're watching something with alert attention, your body changes in subtle but real ways. Your breathing changes rhythm. Your muscles tighten slightly. Your body temperature can shift. You may release trace amounts of stress-related chemicals through your skin. Many animals are extraordinarily sensitive to these signals. Dogs can detect changes in human scent caused by fear, excitement, and even certain diseases. Bears have a sense of smell estimated to be 7 times stronger than a bloodhound's. Sharks detect electromagnetic fields generated by muscle movement in the water. The animal world is saturated with sensory channels we don't have and can barely measure. So when a human sits quietly but intensely focused, broadcasting tiny physical signals of heightened attention, it's not impossible that some animals can read that broadcast. We just don't have the instruments to confirm it yet. Here's the part that should make you pause. We do this too. You felt it. You're sitting in a room, or on a train, or at a restaurant, and without any logical reason, you turn around, and someone is staring at you. Not every time, but often enough that it doesn't feel like coincidence. And it isn't. Multiple studies have found that humans correctly identify when they're being stared at from behind at rates meaningfully above chance. The effect is modest, and it's contested, but it's real enough to have produced decades of scientific debate. The leading explanation isn't psychic ability, it's peripheral vision, micro-movements, and subconscious processing of reflections and ambient cues that our brains pick up on before our conscious mind registers them. We're running the same ancient surveillance system as every other animal. We just dressed it up in a suit and forgot it was there. We are not observers of the animal world. We are part of it, and we carry the same evolutionary hardware, the gaze detection circuits, the forward eye alarm, the body language sensors, that every other social and hunted creature developed over millions of years of being watched and watching back. So, do animals know when they're being watched? For prey animals, the answer is almost certainly yes, through evolved visual systems and instinctive gaze reading that function as a biological early warning system. For highly intelligent species, crows, primates, dogs, the answer goes further. They don't just detect a stare, they model attention. They think about what you can see and what you can't. That's a form of awareness that starts to look uncomfortably like our own. And for the mysterious cases, the animal that turns and looks before you move, the deer that freezes before you make a sound, we don't have a complete answer yet. But we have enough hints to know that the question is worth asking. That deer in the forest wasn't paranoid. It wasn't wrong. It was reading a world that is richer in signals and information than most of us ever notice. The wild world is watching. And it knows, in ways we're only beginning to understand, when you're watching back.